And once again, this is the ESB 2026 player rankings. As today, we go behind the plate. Top 10 catchers entering the 2026 Major League Baseball season. And gentlemen, Joe, Tom joining me today for this edition of our player rankings as we're starting to wrap up our player rankings, heading towards more and more spring training games. We're back to exhibition ball and then eventually the regular season. Tom, we talk about the catcher position today.
Yes, that's what the slide says.
I mean, I thought this would be a segue for you to talk about something, but you're useless and you suck at this. So, Joe, we're talking about the catcher position today.
We are one of the most interesting positions in baseball as catchers have become more and more specialized in terms of defense, frame rate, things like that. You see far less offensive players. Over the last year or so, that's begun to change, and we'll talk about some of the offensive prowess top of the list, but we could look back to last year's, and number one was Adley Rutschman from the Baltimore Orioles. I could probably tell you, spoiler, this is not. We're gonna have a change in number one this year.
I think so.
So it's gonna be interesting. Let's get into it.
And I think if we also turn it back to last year, I made a big debate for who should have been number one entering 2025. And I think we'll have a lot nice things to say about the new number one this year. But let's get right into it, though. Top 10 entering our 2026 season. And you mentioned the name just now, and you see him present on our slide at number 8. We'll get to him shortly. Number 10 is Gabriel Moreno of the Arizona Diamondbacks. He was at our number 9 position last year, so he actually moved down a spot to number 10. And Gabriel Moreno in 2025, 285, had a 353 on base, 786 OPS. Hit just 9 homers, but the catchy metrics are great. I know we get a lot of criticism on utilizing more offense versus defensive metrics, but this guy's defense, I think, really got him into this top 10. Frame rates at the 89th percentile, pop times at 80%, blocks above average, also in the 80%. Salvador Perez is at number 9. Again, also moved down a spot. He was number 8 last year. Salvador Perez has been somebody that we've seen on this list year after year after year after year. And it's amazing because he's 48 years old and he's catching. I'm kidding. He's 35 years old and he's still doing, whether he's either catching or DHing, and still featured in a lot of games behind the plate at his age. Salvi last year, although his batting average and relative slash lines took a dip, still hit 30 home runs. I mean, the guy is incredible. Barrel rates at the 91 percentile, X slugs at 94%, and the catching still good. His caught stealing above average, 82 percentile for Mr. Salvador Perez. And at number 8, and Joe just mentioned him before, he was our number 1 last year. And among all the offensive players, this is the biggest dip out of the number 1 position. Zach Wheeler being it for pitchers, but Zach Wheeler obviously hurt, didn't miss the top 20 list. But Adley Rutschman goes from number 1 to number 8. And now look, a lot of the savant stuff you love from Rutschman still, especially the guy doesn't really strike out that much. Frame rate's still pretty good, but the numbers took a dip all across the board. I mean, this is a guy who popped 20 home runs only 2 seasons ago, gents. And last year only hit 9. And I know that's not really a big metric we try to use on catchers, but Adley's overall numbers and production has really taken a dip since those early years in Baltimore. So really interested to see what you guys think about Rutschman and his drop-off. Tom, go ahead, since you've seen a lot of Rutschman play out as a Yankee fan.
Yeah, I mean, certainly he dropped off. I think everyone would agree to that. Obviously, our list agrees to that. I do wonder, I think he's still incredibly talented. I think we all would say he's still incredibly talented. And with that Orioles lineup just getting older, and older for the Orioles is a good thing because they were so young. Adding in a earmuffs Joe Pete Alonso to that lineup, I think should just make them better. And I could see, I had him ranked a little higher, but again, I do a lot of my rankings trying to project out who I think will do the best. I think he really could bounce back and get himself back into that top 5 because he has the talent to do that. And that their offense should not hopefully for the Yankees' sake, but for their sake, their offense should bounce back. And I think we could see better production offensively out of him in 2026.
Yeah, and Rutschman's an interesting case. It kind of reminds me of a former Oriole catcher in Matt Wieters a little bit. Highly touted prospect, came up, made waves almost immediately, was expected to be that next great catcher in the major leagues, and has started to go backwards now in his fourth full season in the big leagues, albeit with some injuries last year. It's a curious thing. Salvador Perez, I mean, what could you say about him? At his age, I keep expecting him to move to a DH role, to move more to first base role, and they keep sticking him behind the plate. His defense, not quite what it used to be, but he's still an effective catcher. He's the leader of the Royals team. He's been with them for such a long time. I think he came up in 2011. So, I mean, he has been there for a very long time now, 15 going on 16 seasons. It's great to still see him on this list. He's still a power threat. He's still going to hit close to 30 home runs, even if he's not getting on base at a high percentage. But from your catcher, you're going to take that production.
And one last note on Perez. Fangraphs has him slotted as the starting catcher going into 2026. And Carter Jensen, who is a top prospect for the Royals at that position, is the starting DH going to 2020. So it tells you a lot. Either it tells you a lot about how great Salvador Perez still is at his age, or maybe there's some hiccups in Carter Jensen's defensive game that still needs to be figured out on the major league level. But Joe, let's get right back to you and take a look at numbers 7 through 5 in our top 10 countdown.
Okay. So number 7 has taken over the catching duties in Atlanta and taken over the guy's spot on our list. And that is the rookie of the year in the National League, and Drake Baldwin, who kind of came in out of nowhere when Sean Murphy went down with injury. Last year, all he did in 124 games was hit 19 home runs, 80 RBIs. He had 274 average and 341 slug on base percentage to go with an 810 OPS. So he earns our number 7 spot at this list. He's clearly going to be spending some time with Sean Murphy, but we're going to see from there. Number 6 is the one really bright spot for the Colorado Rockies, and that is Hunter Goodman. He was the lone all-star last year. He won the Silver Slugger in the National League for catchers, 31 home runs, 91 RBIs, a 278 average, and a 520 slugging percentage. I mean, really bright spot for them, 26 years of age. And we're expecting him to be a big mover on this list. If he repeats last year, he's going to earn his way higher on this list come this time next year. And then number 5 is Alejandro Kirk of the Toronto Blue Jays. 15 home runs, 76 RBIs, 282 average, just a pesky hitter at the plate. Helped tremendously to get the Blue Jays to the World Series going into his age 27 season. He gains 5 spots on our list. Just a really great all-around player, really good defensive catcher. Not quite the Gold Glove level, but he's going to eventually one day, I think, win a Gold Glove. He earns our number 5 spot on this list. Rich, you're on mute.
Yes, of course I'm on mute, because why wouldn't I be on mute? Hunter Goodman, man. I know, listen, you did a great job going through these 3 guys here. And for Hunter Goodman's sake, the lone Colorado Rocky, I think across all our top 10/20s, spoiler for those looking forward to Brenton Doyle's eventual outfield spot in our next rankings. But Hunter Goodman, yeah, great spot. I love that you called him out the lone bright spot of the Rockies. He truly was. Great numbers for him. Bat speed in the 83 percentile. Barrel rates at the 80%. You want to see some of those catching metrics still make their way up. Box above average, pretty good. Framing rate's pretty good. Can still do a little bit better on catching guys at second base. But other than that, Hunter Goodman, right into that number 6 spot here, the catcher spot, where it's just, again, mainly a defensive position we want to look at, but the offensive metrics get Hunter Goodman right to the middle of this. Tom?
Yeah, I mean, Alejandro Kirk is just a real pest. I just gotta say that he's a little bowling ball, and he's a pest, and I don't like him.
Okay. Well, tell me about the next 3 guys. I'm sure you got one of these 3 guys coming up in the number 4, 3, and 2 spot, Tom.
All the bridesmaids, never the brides. Well, some of these probably had been brides in the past, but we'll start for number 4 on our list, unranked last year, Shea Langoliers of the just the A's out there in Sacramento for one more year. Real breakout year from the catching position out there. And again, might be. No, I don't know if he's the only A on all our list, but he's one of the few if there's any other ones. Certainly probably the highest ranked A of anyone that we have. Again, unranked to number 4. Number 3, we have Will Smith, who's been kind of perennially on this list. Up one spot from 4 last year. Still had a very good offensive year, a 152 OPS plus. I think he had a little bit of injury issues. He only played 110 games. Obviously, catchers aren't going to play 160, but I think he had a little bit of issue, missed a little bit of time last year. Let's see. Will Smith at this point is going into his age. He'll be probably 31 by the time the season starts. So this is the time where you might see a little bit of a drop potentially in Will Smith. But again, he was so good last year. And then number 2, who was unranked last year?
No.
Oh, no. He had the same ranking. I was going to say, wait a minute. We screwed up. Willem Contreras of the Milwaukee Brewers, who has been, again, just truly I have Wilson Contreras's page up. I'm like, those numbers don't look nearly as good as if I looked up Willem Contreras's. Actually, they're pretty
good first baseman though for the Red Sox.
I'm like, wait a minute, this doesn't look right. Yeah, a 111 OPS plus last year, but he certainly played a lot, and a big kind of component of what the Brewers are doing, holds down the 2 spot. Yeah, mostly because this might be one of those. I feel we say this almost every time. There might not be a bigger gap between number 2 and number 1 as there is for this list, and obviously you all know who that's going to be, and we'll talk about these guys for a little bit before we get to them. So, what do you guys got? Anything on these 3?
Yeah, Joe, before you, I just want to make the quick note here. Tom, you mentioned the A's that have made our top 10s. Shea Langoliers is number 4 who's made it. So kind of apropos that he's number 4. There's been 4 A's thus far. Brent Rooker, Jacob Wilson, Nick Kurtz, now Shea Langoliers. And I will tell you guys right now, right before we hit our outfield spot, this ain't the last day you're going to see on our top list here. Joe, go ahead.
Yeah, and Langoliers is one of those guys, up and coming catcher, 28 years of age, and I think we're just starting to see this best version of baseball. I want to focus a little bit on Will Smith. Will Smith, it's so hard with the Dodger team to not just gawk at all the different Dodger players that make these lists. They got the number 1 DH, they got a top first baseman, they got all these guys, they got a shortstop in our top 10. They got all these guys that are phenomenal players. Will Smith flies so under the radar, and he is such a good. All he did last year, albeit with a couple of injuries, is hit 296 with a 404 on base percentage. I know the first guy who's going to be number 1 is the best hitting catcher, but if you're talking pure hitter, I think Will Smith is the best pure hitter in terms of contact, giving you great at-bats start to finish. And he really takes a Dodger lineup to the next level because he just lengthens that lineup. You don't expect a catcher who's in your 5 spot to lengthen the lineup that it does. And when he comes up, I think he's overlooked by the fact that the MVPs are all in front of him. And all of that, and all he does, he kind of sneaks up on you and just gives you production right here. 3-time All-Star. I think he's tremendously underappreciated in MLB catching circles,
and such a clutch player, let alone at the position, but such a clutch player overall. Not many other guys I'd rather have in a big spot than Will Smith up in a lineup. But here we go. Let's get to number 1. Again, as we've kind of presented these. At this point, not really a surprise who here is at number 1. And well, listen, when you set major league records at this position, especially in the home run category, when you set that same record as a switch hitter in that home run category, there's no other choice but to take that number 1 spot. And our number 1 catcher, of course, is Cal Raleigh. Cal Raleigh, 60 home runs last year. Cal Raleigh, 125 RBIs last year. Yeah, the batting average isn't that great. On base percentage, 359 last year. OPS, 948. OPS plus, 169. Only if there was a host here that had this guy pegged for number 1 before he did any of this and would have made us look even cooler than we actually are. But guess what? Cal was number 3 last year. It only took him 1 year to get into that number 1 spot. Cal Raleigh is your number 1 catcher in all of baseball. Tom, Joe, comments on Cal before we move on to our individual rankings.
I just thought you were going to actually blow yourself as you were talking about Cal there and how great you were predicting him last year. So thank you for not doing that on screen.
Don't break your arm patting yourself on the back. I mean, again, a guy that was really good in our rankings last year, great, a good defensive catcher, had that 30 home run power, similar to Salvador Perez. And if you look at his numbers, they were very similar to Salvador Perez. He has taken that next leap and now become one of the premier power hitters in the sport. So when you go from 34 home runs now to 60 home runs, you're in a different category of baseball player. Led the league in home runs and RBIs as a catcher. You're now in rarefied air. You're in conversations that Mike Piazza's in, although he's not as great with the average. But that's the kind of power presence that you're in, and it's very, very unique in the terms of baseball history to have a catcher even come close to those kind of numbers.
Yeah, I mean, truly an incredible year for him. I wonder what he's going to do this year, right? The past 3 years, he was averaging right around 30 homers, and he doubles it to 60. I don't know if we're going to get another 60 out of him, but I think if you're getting another 40 out of your catcher position, I'm sure the Mariners would be ecstatic with that. Great year for Cal last year.
Absolutely. And even defensively, too, frame rate still up in a good percentile, 93%. But this is your list: Moreno, Perez, Rushman, Baldwin, Goodman, Kirk, Langolier, Smith, Contreras, Raleigh. I'm only going to get to do this 2 more times, fellas. The money slide. Let's take a look. All righty, here we go. Everybody had Cal at the top, so we don't have to run into any controversy there. Yes, a lot of good love for Shea Langoliers. Voted in 2 number 2 spots. It kind of scattered throughout there. I had him at number 7. And honestly, when I'm looking back at it, I think I should have had Langoliers just a little bit higher in that mix. He had such a great year last year. I think he's only going to get better. Well, Joe, let's take a look at this. Any outliers here that you want to call out?
I'm trying to look here. Keith had your boy Bailey on there. Rich did not put Bailey on the list.
I did not have Patty in there. No, I didn't.
So that was an interesting one. Tom had Augustine Ramirez. That's an interesting one.
Yeah. I don't know if is he projected to be their DH or their catcher? Because now I'm like listen, it's what's done is done. I just think offensively, I know like he doesn't really provide the best defensively, but offensively, that guy is just ready to. I mean, if there's a guy who I think could break out and do huge things for them, out of that position, he is projected to be their opening day catcher.
Yeah, that's what
Augustine Ramirez is a scary at bat.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny because he's one of those players that I had considered him into a top 10, but I know, like, Tom, I know what your shtick's been. You've been more projecting to where these guys are going to be at year end. I'm more of the type of, hey, if you earned getting into the top 10 at the end of next year, that's what's going to earn your stripes here. I'm a little perplexed. You really think Will Smith's going to have a drop off where you have him at the number 7 position? He's arguably the second best catcher in all of baseball.
Yeah, so I mean, I've said it before. I go a little bit with the old New England Patriots Bill Belichick model. I'd rather be a year early than a year late. So I do have some of the younger guys because Will Smith is incredible, and I'm just thinking, hey, maybe this is the year he takes a little bit of a step back. Not even as much of him take a step back, but a guy like Langoliers takes a step forward. Goodman, Baldwin, Rushman kind of like shows more of that talent and takes a step forward. Which is why I ranked them this way.
And I got to call out for Joe here. Look, again, outliers. I've seen Yanier Diaz. I've seen Carson Kelly, who honestly, outside of last year, was a career backup catcher. You have him at 7, but Hunter Goodman at 3 is a jump.
I mean, so that's the thing. A lot of people are going to say,
you're going to say him listing Francisco Alvarez.
And you actually have him at 4. I just looked that over across the way. You guys have Goodman relatively high.
And a lot of people are going to be like, "Oh, Colorado, that has a lot to do with it." Hey, listen, to the difference between Goodman and the rest of these guys is Goodman has no one around him. Smith is in a lineup with 3 MVPs. Langoliers is in surprisingly what I think is a top 5 lineup in all of baseball. When you actually break it down and look at it, Goodman has no one around him. And to hit 31 home runs and 91 RBIs on the hapless Colorado Rockies, I think really says something. And so you look at a guy like that, I'm very bullish on him because I think the best is yet to come. And whether that's more than 30 home runs, I don't know. But I think he's a really, really good ball player. By the way, I just looked it up. He had more home runs on the road than he did at home last year. So he had 18 home runs on the road, 13 at home last year.
Couple other, I see Dylan Dingler's in Keith's list. I see you have Francisco Alvarez in yours, Joe. But no one wanted to give Austin Wells any love. He's not featured in any top 10s. But there you have it. That's our top 10 catchers list. We're going to be looking down the path of our final rankings as we'll end this off with, again, this is our list for 2026. But that's going to be it from us here on the catching position heading into the 2026 campaign. We'll see if the outfield, which is going to be a live reveal next Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Empire State of Baseball. So stay tuned, and we'll see you for the live show. Have a good day.